Miguel, the newspapers are suggesting it could be 60 million, could be 45 million, but it seems like Manchester United are looking to Ollie Watkins to solve their striker crisis. Does that feel a good fit for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think above anything, especially when you consider some of the strikers that Manchester have signed lately, the most obvious one being Højlund and Xerxes, who may yet have potential, that's up for debate. Watkins is a proven Premier League goal scorer. And given Manchester United's difficulties last season, one of the biggest being in front of goal, I mean, it's an immediate solution to that problem. I know it sounds so simplistic, but sometimes it is that simple. He's a guarantee of goals in that sense. He knows the division. We're talking about a player in his prime. If there is some variation on the potential price you have to pay, the other side of that is, I don't think there's much variation yet on the line that Villa are making clear, which is that he is not for sale. Now, the one thing about that I would say is, I mean, yes, it's their stated position, or sorry, their position people understand from behind the scenes. But in a market like this, where PSR involves situations where executives talk about how sometimes you have to sell players before you necessarily want them for football reasons, it's hard not, and given the noise coming out of Old Trafford, it's hard not to think that something might be possible down the line. Maybe as they get closer to the window, or as Villa think about their own business.
Yeah, Charlotte, you've been writing about this story as well. You're in Chicago following Manchester United on their pre-season tour. Your angle is slightly different. Ollie Watkins and Benjamin Šeško at RB Leipzig are the two targets for United. And there's one line I want to pick out. The club need to decide which option better suits Ruben Amorim's style. They've only got a fortnight till the season starts.
Yeah, as far as I understand it, these are the top two targets. And as I've said, they're looking at how one of them will fit into the system. But as Miguel's pointed out, this summer Manchester United have started targeting Premier League proven players, which would lead you towards Ollie Watkins. You've also got the situation where Villa are interested in Garnacho, one of the players that Manchester United are trying to get rid of. So could there be something done there in terms of that? Sesko would cost them a lot more money, but he's a lot younger. Ollie Watkins is 29, Sesko is 22. There's obviously pros and cons for both of them. So I think it's just something that United Chiefs are weighing up at the moment. We're also being told by people we speak to that it's a possibility they go into the season without a new number 9. I mean, you look at what happened to them last season and the lack of goals, but in the game against West Ham at the weekend, Rasmus Højlund didn't score, but he's starting to build that relationship with Cooney. You've got Mbeumo that's going to come into this system as well. He spoke to us yesterday about how he could possibly play through the middle, and he's a proven Premier League goal scorer as well. So there's plenty of options still on the table. I don't think it's necessarily they're 100% going to go for Watkins and they're going to get him. Like Miguel said, Villa are very strong in their stance at the minute that they don't want to sell their front man. So there's lots of negotiations to go. It's highly likely that they'll go into that Arsenal game without a new number 9, but obviously the transfer window's still open until September. So yeah, it's one that's probably going to play out and we'll be talking about for the next few weeks on here.
Yeah, I think we will, and always good to have a backup plan. The Mail is following a similar line to yourself, Charlotte. Watkins and Šeško topping United's hit list. Aston Villa are in the Europa League, Miguel. Manchester United are not in Europe. Is the lure of Manchester United still such that he would snub European football?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like an internet meme in this sense, but it is still Manchester United. The name alone carries stature. I suppose it's a little bit like with Brian Mbeumo, who's obviously been talking about Watkins today. I know we'll come to that. Charlotte's interviewed him. But United still offer that possibility. There's always that sense. And really, I suppose, the belief that eventually it's going to get right, and it's still Old Trafford, it's still the potential of trophies, all of that. So, yes, it does hold allure. On the other side, I suppose, you mentioned Villa being in European football. I did mention their PSR situation there. That doesn't sound like it's as concerning for them as maybe people had thought when they didn't get Champions League at the end of the season, because obviously so far they've stayed resolute in their own business. And yeah, I think there's a lot to play out in this. The Sesko one is interesting though, because I mean ultimately Arsenal. I mean I've heard as well. I wrote myself tonight that Amorim likes Sesko. I think some of United's recruitment staff as well. I think there's a bit of background there with Vivel. They obviously are well aware of his qualities. Arsenal were most interested in him because of his potential high ceiling, something we've talked about before with the likes of Højlund. Maybe he's a bit further down the track. He has played in the Euros. But Arsenal ultimately moved away from that deal because Leipzig wanted €80 million. And Arsenal just didn't feel his potential ceiling was worth that this summer. So, I mean, right now you think he potentially costs more than Watkins, where there's a few more questions. But yeah, as you said, there's a lot of spinning plates this summer now.
Yeah, you touched on Brian Mbeumo has been speaking about Ollie Watkins. That's the Sun's focus of this story. The two of them played together at Brentford. You were involved in this chat with Brian Mbeumo earlier, Charlotte. What's he had to say about his former teammate?
Yeah, he described him as the complete striker. So, I mean, what higher praise could he put on the guy? So, and normally he wasn't getting involved in speculation in terms of he wasn't saying he was going to come to United or anything like that. It was more about the relationships that they built together at Brentford and the great times that he had at Brentford rather than what could potentially happen at Manchester United. But yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. He spoke to us about playing chess and how that helps the strategy in his brain and how that helps him play football, and also how he relaxes playing the piano, which Miguel will know. He speaks to lots of footballers, and that's not normally what you expect them to hear them say that they do in their spare time. So he seems excited to be here. He still hasn't played any part for Manchester United. When he was at Brentford, he wasn't actually training on the grass because he knew he wanted a transfer. He stayed in the gym. He wanted to keep himself injury-free. So he is a bit behind his teammates in terms of their pre-season preparations. We went to training this morning. He was involved. So United have got a game out here tomorrow night, USA time. So it'll be interesting to see if he features for the first time, and also where is he going to fit into this Amorim system, because we've seen him play out wide for Brentford. He spoke about that on the right wing. Is he going to play in one of them 2-10 positions? Are we going to see him play as a number 9 if Manchester United don't get the number 9 in that they want? So there's lots of different options to see. It's going to be interesting to see where he slots into this system. But as of yet, he's not pulled on a Manchester United shirt. So we've all been left guessing as to where he's going to fit in.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. Miguel, you've also been writing about Manchester United, but also Chelsea and the horse trading that Manchester United seemingly might have to get involved in as they look to send players out, bring players in, but also balance the PSR.
So, yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, obviously, we all know Amorim wants this huge overhaul, but that overhaul is not possible without sales that allow PSR headroom. And, of course, it's complicated by the fact there are about 4 players, given Rashford has gone to Barcelona, that Amorim absolutely wants out. So, you know, the maths don't quite up, so they're going to have to come up with some solutions. And one of the ones I've heard of and that I've written about there was they've been speaking to both Chelsea and Villa about Garnacho. And obviously, yeah, that's been raised, as Charlotte said there, with the Watkins situation. But there was also similar broached with Chelsea. Look, Chelsea have a long-standing interest in Garnacho. Going back to January, a deal didn't get done then because the price was too high. At that point, I think it was United wanted around 68 million. From what I hear and what I've written tonight, there's still a considerable difference of valuation, because while it had been spoken about how maybe Nicholas Jackson could go the other way, Chelsea wants 80 million for him. They've been good sellers this summer, Chelsea. They've got some high prices of players that they haven't necessarily wanted. The latest today being João Felix. That's a sort of capability United would love to have, given some of their difficulties. But on the other side, Chelsea don't want to pay more than 30 million for Garnacho. Now, of course, some of this is a little like with Villa, a negotiation tactic or a stance that you set out. But it shows maybe right now Chelsea are operating in the market from a position of strength, even though they do need to sell players, whereas Manchester United are having to make things happen. And that's going to, I suppose, influence a lot of deals.
Yeah, just looking at the numbers in your piece, I know you've touched on them there. Chelsea valuing Nicholas Jackson at £80 million and they see Garnacho at £30 million. What do you make of the numbers there, Charlotte? They were a bit surprising to me.
Yeah, from people I've spoken to around Manchester United, I'm sure Miguel's the same. I think Manchester United would not want to pay £80 million for Nicholas Jackson. And if that was how much they were asking for him, I think they would step away from the deal, especially if Garnacho was only going the other way for 30 million, because Manchester United have still got to then pay £50 million for a player who, yeah, he scored more goals than Rasmus Højlund, but he's hardly set the Premier League alight himself either, has he? So I think if you were comparing Nicholas Jackson with Ollie Watkins, for example, all hypothetical, because at this time, obviously, Villa are still saying they're not selling. Out of the two of them on paper, I think you'd opt towards going towards someone like Watkins. He is a proven Premier League goal scorer that's been more effective than Nicholas Jackson has so far. and the price tag for him would be lower. So, I mean, there's lots of ifs and buts, but yeah, I think Manchester United would want to recoup more than £30 million for Garnacho. Obviously, he's a homegrown player. That definitely helps in terms of PSR, full profit for him. And I don't think they would value Nicholas Jackson at 80 million. So if there was anything to progress in that deal, I think both of those numbers would have to go in the opposite directions.
Yeah, as you said earlier, still a long way to go until the window shuts. I imagine some of those fees might tweak.
Manchester United have made their position clear. They won't be dragged into a bidding war for PSG goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma. Meanwhile, there are shock reports of United discussing possible swap deals involving Alejandro Garnacho. Big names, big decisions. Let's get into what's going on at Old Trafford. Welcome back to Sport Lab. Let's start with Gianluigi Donnarumma. According to The Sun, Manchester United are not planning to compete in any aggressive bidding for the Italian goalkeeper. Donnarumma is approaching the final year of his contract at PSG and has yet to agree to a new deal. With the French club signing a new goalkeeper this summer, Donnarumma's future is now uncertain. Chelsea and Manchester City have also been linked, and while Donnarumma would bring top-level experience, United are reportedly not willing to enter a financial tug-of-war. Why? They're believed to be content with their current keeper situation, and prefer to allocate resources elsewhere unless the price drops or a structured deal emerges. Now to the Alejandro Garnacho situation, and this one's raising eyebrows. According to The Independent, United have spoken with both Chelsea and Aston Villa about the young winger, potentially exploring swap deals involving strikers like Nicholas Jackson or Ollie Watkins. Garnacho, despite his talent and moments of brilliance last season, was left out of several squads under Ruben Amorim's interim leadership. While the club rates him highly, there's growing speculation that he could be part of a larger restructuring move, especially if it means bringing in a proven Premier League forward. United have shown long-term interest in Ollie Watkins, who has just come off a stellar season with Aston Villa. Nicholas Jackson is another profile they've tracked, young, fast, and Premier League tested. As of now, these discussions are said to be exploratory. No formal offers or swap proposals have been submitted, but the fact that Garnacho's name is even part of the conversations suggests United are open to creative ways of reshaping the attack. So, no bidding war for Donnarumma, and possibly Garnacho on the table in a swap. It's clear Manchester United are thinking boldly this summer, looking at opportunities that could surprise fans, but align with long-term planning. Should United cash in on Garnacho if it brings in a striker like Watkins? Or would that be a mistake? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe to SportLab for real-time updates, smart analysis, and all the angles behind the headlines. We'll see you in the next one.